Hi, I'm Kat, marketer turned brand storyteller.
And I'm Candace, educator turned entrepreneur.
And you're listening to
Not Nice, Clever.
We're two introverts who speak on stages around the country and work with top personal brands who also unapologetically require 24 to 48 hours of recovery time on the couch in our favorite sweats. All Netflix and no chill.
And to be clear, we're not quiet or nice. Together, we're redefining what it means to be an introvert who means business. It's time to show up and show off. Are you in?
On this episode of Not Nice Clever, we have an incredible guest to introduce you to, but we also want to share with our Clever crew that this is the first episode that Candace and I have ever recorded in the same room together. We are in LA at a podcast conference, so if you hear some back and forth in the background, that's why. But without further ado, we are pleased to introduce you to Kofi Nartey, athlete turned full mogul entrepreneur. He's the leader of the Globl Real Estate and Development Division at Real, with over 20 years of experience from sports and entertainment to now real estate, also on top of just being an incredible husband and father and inspirational leader. He also recently launched an incredible Shopify shop that we will talk about toward the end of the episode. But without further ado, we are going to introduce you to Kofi. So, Kofi, thank you so much for spending time with us here today. We are really excited to introduce you to the Clever crew here at Not Nice Clever. And, you know, for those who are listening in, we obviously ask some really fun questions. We love to dig. We love to get to know the real and share that with our community. But, and it was so funny, Clever crew, we almost started talking on the podcast before we hit record. And the question I want to lead off with, I think would be interesting, is Kofi, because you have such an interesting story, interesting background. We'll get all into that. But would you describe yourself as an introvert or an extrovert?
Actually, I'm in transition.
We did not expect that.
I didn't either. I haven't been asked that question in a while, but I realized that I'm in a transitional phase from being more extroverted to being less extroverted and more introverted. And what is happening, I think, is I spent most of my life just being very extroverted. I think I've always described myself as a people person. And as you go through life, I still love people, but people are tiring. I tell you, people will wear you out, right? In addition to that, I've reached a place where I don't love surface level conversations. I just don't.
We don't either.
And most networking and most events and most sidelines at the soccer games, it's very surface level. And so the faster I can get to a deeper level conversation, the happier I am. But because that doesn't happen too often, I'm fine kind of staying in my own lane. I love presenting. I love sharing from stage. I love a real conversation, but networking for networking's sake, I'll pass. I'll go in and out. I used to love just hanging out. Like, oh yeah, I'll pass.
So Kofi, this is so funny that you're talking about this today because we are in LA at Podcast Movement Evolution's podcast conference right now. And it's the first time that Kat and I have ever been in a room full of podcasters. And what I realized is that podcasters are introverts who don't like surface level conversations, which is why we freaking have podcasts, because we invite people like you on our podcast and we don't talk surface level. Our first question goes deep. And so does everyone else in the podcast space, which is so different because, I spend a lot of time in the real estate space, you're in the real estate space, and those conferences are very different than the podcast conference because it's just quieter and there's just a little bit more time and space between conversations because the introverts don't know how to start the conversations.
Right.
And so it's been a really unique space to be in. So I think it's so interesting that you also have a podcast that we'll talk about today.
There you go. Love it. No, I at least get to use my extroverted skills when I need to, because I still have them. If I need to spark a conversation, I can. But just know it's not going to be surface level for long. If we are going to talk about anything, like let's just go there. Like let's make it interesting. And I like asking questions as well, like you guys do. And when you ask the right questions, and sometimes even when you stay on the question, it gets very interesting, and you get to learn something about people, and you get to learn sometimes something about yourself just based on their
Mm-hmm.
experience. Sometimes people will answer your question and they'll say something and they'll glance over something that's like, wait a minute,
Hold, please.
that
Yeah.
little segment, we're not letting that slide. We're going to stay right there for a minute because that's super
Mm-hmm.
interesting.
And so, continuing along the theme of following the question, you have a podcast called Full Mogul. And we love making up our own language. We love having our own inside jokes with the Clever Crew. And we love it when folks that we interview also kind of have their own like terminology. So, can you share with us what was the origin of that term? Where did it come from? I want to get to like the heart of that.
Well, I have to give you the real story since I just said surface level doesn't work, right? Like
Typically, yes, that's what we
I've
want.
given the short version. I think the last 10 times I've answered the question, I've given
Okay,
the short version. I'll give you the full story, and it only takes 30 seconds longer.
perfect.
I was having a conversation with one of my buddies, entrepreneur. He's a lawyer, just super smart, Harvard grad, and he was venturing out to do his own thing and realizing how much work was involved. And he had to learn coding and all these new skills, and he was pouring himself into it. And we were just talking about the grind of business and entrepreneurship and how you do have to roll up your sleeves and learn different things, but you have to do it. You just have to put in the work. And we were talking about Tupac. And we talked about the fact that Tupac released so much music in his short lifetime. And he had so much music that never made it to like the radio. Like I had 10 Tupac albums that never got released. Like he was prodigious and just producing. And so we had this thing where you have to go full Pac. Like if you're in a moment of launching something or doing something, it's like full Pac. It's like all in on all aspects of what you're doing. And then eventually it became like full mogul. For me, being a business person, the idea of being full mogul was being all in on being the best version of yourself across all aspects of yourself, right? Because the last thing that you want in life is to be an amazing business person, but you've lost your spouse in the process. You're a great dad, but your health is bad because you're not taking care of yourself, right? Because all of those things matter, and you can't let any one thing redline. If you really care about your kids, you want to be around for a long time. So you actually have to take care of yourself. I love Elon Musk, for example, but he's a terrible dad by all measures. Like, look at that. That's not full mogul, right? He's amazing in business, and there are things to learn from him, but that's not really what we're looking at. So that's the full origin story of full mogul.
I love it. It's something that we say here at Not Nice Clever, where, or even just Candace and I have said even before we started the podcast together, like, who are you as a human? Like all your past lives, what you're doing right now, all the different hats, all the different worlds, the different identities. What's the like through line, right? And are you
Yeah,
being the best version of that in all areas? Not that you just like magically become a
exactly.
different person when you wear one hat, you take it off and you
Hmm.
put on the other. And I love the contrarian opinion where like if you want to be a good dad, you got to be a good man first, right? A good human, right?
Right,
Healthy so that you can be there for
right.
your kids
Yeah.
long term. So
Exactly,
important.
exactly. There's several ways that I've expressed this over the last handful of years, even. I went and I spoke to the Kansas City Chiefs last year. They brought me in. I've been speaking to the NFL players for about 7, 8 years now. I had a shot with the Raiders when I finished playing football at Berkeley and so forth. But it's interesting, over the last few years, we've transitioned from less real estate to more life, right? And it's always a little bit of life because you have to know what you're doing or why you're doing it to even want to invest your time in real estate investment or a broadcasting career or whatever you're going to do in addition to football. But with the Chiefs, they said, forget about the real estate. We want all of your life stuff and excellence and why it's important to be excellent and iterate. And, because we just won a Super Bowl, but we want to get back to the Super Bowl. And we want the guys to realize you have to do things differently to get back to where you were. So I did this whole talk on that. And one of the things I told them was that the full man beats the half man. Like the full man beats the half man. And what I explained was that if you develop other aspects of yourself, those nuances that you learn from the different aspects of yourself will make their way into every aspect of yourself, making you more dynamic and making you better, right? So you can't neglect those pieces.
Kofi, are you telling me that you speaking to the Kansas City Chiefs is the reason that they beat my San Francisco 49ers in the Super Bowl earlier? Is that what you're telling
I
me?
knew you were smart. I knew you were smart, clever, and smart 100%.
Kofi,
That's what I'm telling you.
we can still be friends. Candace, we can still have Kofi. We
Kofi,
can continue
she's
this
going to be on
interview.
this topic for a long time. Thank you for that. Thank you for that. I will be hearing about this for
I
a while.
offered my services to the Niners too. I told the Niners, bring me in. I told them, but you see what happened.
Niners, this is your chance if you're listening.
I'm getting Kyle on the phone right now.
That's it.
So I would like to talk to you a little bit about how I guess I should preface this by saying that athletes are some of my favorite clients. I love working with athletes as a brand strategist because they're coachable. They understand that to get the success, there's a lot of failures that happen first. And they understand the process. And what I'm wanting to know from you is, how do you define success now? Is it different than maybe you defined it previously in your career? Is it different than how you defined it as an athlete?
Yeah, it's a good question. And just kind of going backwards for just a hot second. So, Kat, I did grow up as a 49ers fan. Right?
Oh, I knew I liked you for some reason.
Because I played wide receiver.
That's right.
Yeah, so I was a Jerry Rice fan. I played wide receiver.
Yep. Jerry.
And exactly, right? And I had a chance to train with him too when I was at Cal. So that was like super cool. We had Steve Mariucci was our coach for a year, and then he went to the Niners, and then he brought us seniors in to train with him. So that was epic.
So epic.
Someone who's one of the best to ever do it, at that level was amazing. But then the Raiders gave me a shot. So I'll tell you guys, 15-second funny story I got to share. So I had a 49ers shirt on draft day because I was like, okay, I had a chance to train with them. They were watching me. I had trained with the Cleveland Browns, but I'm like, I don't want to go to Cleveland. It's too cold, whatever.
Yeah, we got to keep you in the
But
bay.
then the Raiders called. Yeah. And thank God, though, they didn't have like Zoom back then, because I would have been on video with a 49er shirt when the Raiders were calling me. So
Very
literally,
awkward.
like, my family's there, and I'm taking off this shirt because they're like, would you like to come to the Raiders? I'm like, yes, I'm taking off the shirt. Putting on a Raiders shirt. So
that is hilarious. I love that.
Go where opportunity is given. But success, and what success means for me, success is realizing potential. It's realizing potential. That is, to me, the ultimate measure of success. Because when you look at what you can achieve is based on like your resources, your skills, your effort, the hard work, your opportunities, or what have you. And as you increase those things, your potential actually increases. It's just like you listen to an amazing podcast. Now you have more information, so you can do more. You go to a great school, you go to a great training, you meet an amazing business partner. Now your potential increases. So your goal in life is to bridge the gap between where you are and where your potential says you can be. And so the closer you can get to that, that's where success happens. That's where you're living in your gifts, you're living in your experience, you're I have a lot of these Kofiisms in my life philosophies.
We love them. We want to hear them.
I'll give you one. We have a responsibility during our lifetime to realize all of our God-given gifts and share them with the world. Responsibility during our lifetime to realize all of our God-given gifts and share them with the world. And so as we're realizing our potential and we're sharing those gifts, we're sharing from our gifts. And if you're sharing from your gifts, you don't run out. Mm-hmm. And that's where you feel aligned with what you're doing, right? The misalignment is when it's not aligned with your gifts. It's not aligned with your passions. It doesn't mean you're going to enjoy every aspect of what you're doing. Yep. But if the bulk of what you're doing aligns with those things, you're going to be happier, you're going to be more successful, and you'll feel it and you'll see it.
Something that you said within that was, as your network grows, as your opportunities grow, speak to the person who's listening right now who's saying, oh yeah, this is easy for Kofi because he was on $1 Million Listing. He did all the, he had these opportunities, so it's easy for him to talk about this. What do you say to that person?
Can I curse?
Oh, please. Yes. Do you know who we
bullshit.
are? Yeah.
I would call bullshit. I would call bullshit so fast. Everyone can look to somebody else and say, oh, they've had an easier route, until you know their route. Like, if you understand their route, right? I laugh because I know all the guys and the women from been on those shows. I knew 90% of them before they went on the show. The only people that I didn't know were like the ones in New York, and then they had these spinoffs in, I think, Miami or something like that. But I remember I did a panel with Madison Hildebrand, who was on $1 Million Listing. I did a talk for Remax's luxury division, and he spoke as well. And he told the story that his first episode of $1 Million Listing was his first ever real estate deal. I'm like, that's good fortune. Not me, who had to grind with no resources, no mentorship, right?
Yeah.
And I say these things because there's always a way. Like you don't create your own hurdles and you don't create your own challenges, but you have to solve them,
Yes.
right? It's like they say, it's not your problem, but it's your responsibility, right?
Yeah.
You have to figure it out. I had to figure it out. My mentors for the first 8 years of my career were books and Google. Like I didn't have somebody to turn to. I didn't have, family sending me referrals, right?
Right.
I've been in real estate for 21 years. My parents have never referred me anybody in 21 years. When I went to the agency, I'll tell you a funny story. When I
Yeah.
went to the agency, I was up for rookie of the year when my first year there. And I had done maybe 25 deals or something like that. The guy I lost to did 2 deals. And he beat me because he sold like 70 something million, I think it was $78 million in real estate. 76 of it was his dad's house. One deal.
Oh,
Okay. I'm like,
no.
what are
We
we
gotta
doing
have
right
different
now?
measures. Yeah.
What reality is this?
Yeah.
Um, so yes, there are my advantages because I've turned them into advantages. And I would say the biggest advantage that I have, or just one advantage that I have, is that I will always try to find a solution. Like
Yeah.
I will figure it out,
Yep.
and I'll share with you guys, that I just launched a Shopify store. Hopefully we'll talk about that. But it took me 5 years to stop and figure it out. But I figured it out. Like I didn't have anyone to help me with that kind of thing,
Yep.
but it does take that moment of, am I going to sit here and doubt myself, or sit here and have a pity party, or sit here and look at the excuses? Or am I going to say, how do I figure this out? How do I find the resources I need? How do I Google? How do I YouTube? How do I find a partner that can help me, mentorship or coaching that can help me get to where I want to be?
Yep.
Hmm.
I love that.
It's so funny so that you talk about how you've been in real estate for 21 years and your family has never referred you any deals. I call that out because I love it when we find things in common with like the guests that we invite on here. And just as my network grows, like I share with Candace, like my parents are not on social media. They don't really understand how I leverage digital to build my brand and my business. And they still have not yet listened to our podcast. And we are 150 plus episodes in. And it was something that I struggled with at first. And I would talk about it with my partner,
Yeah,
Will and Candace, and, just accepting that is not going to change, or if it changes, that's great, but focusing on what I can control
exactly.
and focusing on how to, solve the obstacles or challenges that come my way instead of just being a victim to it and finding a way to be a victor over it. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. No, totally. Totally. I did this private dinner with my good buddy Arjun, when we did
Yeah.
the
In
private thing.
November.
Yeah. Were you
We
guys at the
were.
dinner the
Oh,
night
that's how
before?
we first met
Okay.
you. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So do you remember? I was just going to share the quick story with Ryan Serhant, because Ryan Serhant and I kind of did a little talk
Yeah.
that night, and he was telling the story of, at this point, I don't think TV matters as much, and I was like, bro, you've been on TV for the last 10 years. It doesn't matter for you because you've had a show for 10 years. And as a matter of fact, you're recording a new show for Netflix as we speak. So let's be real about the
Mm-hmm.
advantages. And I've experienced it. Like you mentioned, Candace, like I've been on $1 Million Listing, but I've been on cameos. Like I never was a cast
Mm-hmm.
member. And so I've been on where it was like a real scene where I'm talking or engaging with the clients or engaging with the cast members, not just in the background. But those 30-second to 1 minute cameos are always game changers for me, because it's national exposure and international exposure. And, as my good buddy Sharon says, fame is the most efficient business model. So my phone always
Mm-hmm.
rings when I do those cameos. And there's just not a lot of people that look like me on the luxury real estate shows and luxury real estate in general. So I stand out in those 30
Yeah.
seconds, right? So it's a huge advantage to get television exposure and media exposure. Now, the good thing is we can create a lot of that, ourselves through social media, not always at that scale, but there are some huge advantages to that for
Mm-hmm.
sure.
I know. I think I had said that because I remember when you spoke up at the dinner and you said that, I was like, again, contrarian opinions. We love it here at Not Nice Clever.
Yes, yes.
There are so many people that have been on like $1 Million Thing and the spinoffs. There's so many people that have been on reality TV and have had the opportunity to springboard from that platform and leverage the exposure, but they just don't do it. They waste that opportunity. So I would say, how do you look at leveraging, like if somebody is able to get that 30-second cameo or 50-second on whatever platform it may be, what's your approach in making the most of it? How do you turn it into opportunity and business beyond that like on air time, so to speak?
Yeah, yeah. I suck at it, if I'm being totally honest.
I didn't think you were going to say that.
I
Okay.
do, I do, and I kick myself for it. And this is one area that I need to do better, if I'm being totally honest. I've seen agents in our industry who have had that 20-second appearance on $1 Million Listing. 20 seconds of, welcome to the listing or hi. That's all they said on the show. You go to their Instagram, it's part of their bio as seen on $1 Million Listing. You go to their website, it's as seen on $1 Million Listing. Here I've been on 7 episodes. I've toured with Josh and I've shown multi-million-dollar estates, and it might be 8 episodes now. I've been on Selling Sunset, like this coming Selling Sunset season. I'm going to be on the very first episode of the season. I'm going to be on a later episode of the season. I don't leverage those things nearly enough. And I think what I need to do a better job of is, and I guess this is what I would tell someone, is turning it into both short form content, right? Do the little snippets, turn it into reels, use it in real time once you can share what's aired. Also do the Throwback Thursday or Flashback Friday. Tether it to the exposure and the advantages it gives your clients. So I haven't done a great job of utilizing it on social media, but I utilize it in conversation a lot, right? So at this point, like the last time I filmed Selling Sunset. I mean, I can tell you this because I'm not going to tell you the details, but I filmed 2 weeks ago. Okay. I filmed 2 weeks ago because I filmed with them multiple times before and I forged the relationships. So now I can call them and say, hey, you guys want to film this? And they'll say yes or they'll say no. That's how I've leveraged it. And when I go to my clients, letting them know that I have that access and I have that exposure, they're actually real relationships. I've known Jason Oppenheim for, I don't know, 15 years. And the Altmans and all of them. I know all of them. And now I know the show producers. So it's a good advantage there. But I do think that sometimes people over leverage it, right? They over leverage even less. And I say that because I under leverage having a lot more that I could leverage, just need to do a better job at it.
You're out there building your personal brand and you also have a team relying on you. But if your people don't know how to fish for themselves, the burden of new business always falls on you. Ouch, no thanks.
The opportunity we see: teach your team how to generate their own business.
The result, more time and energy back in your day so you can scale sans burnout.
Amplify by Not Nice Clever is the ace up your sleeve, a hands-on workshop full of replicable frameworks and actionable strategies that your team can put in place right away.
Your job? Sit back and let us work our magic.
Even CEOs need help sometimes. We've got you. Head to our show notes to get the deets. #outsourced.
Kofi, I want to know what you say to, I'm assuming this is happening in your family, or maybe it's just mine and everyone else that I work with. Does the who does he think he is ever come up in your family? Who does he think he
I'm
is? He's
laughing.
out here doing all these things. Who does he think he is? Is that a thing?
No, it doesn't come up directly, but how it comes up is my kids make fun of me like nobody's business, right? So I have a 15-year-old daughter, and my son is going to be 12 this year, and even the two of them in tandem, they just
Oh gosh, they roast you.
making fun of me. Love making
Yep.
fun of me. It's just like I used to do a morning like mantra, right, as part of my daily affirmations, and it was like, I am Kofi Nartey. I'm a strong husband, father, full mogul millionaire, man of God. Blah blah blah. I would say this. And then after about 3 months, my kids will be walking around as, I am Kofi Nartey. I am. That was like the who do you think you are moment, right?
Yep, that's it.
But
Yep. You're like, this beautiful life you're living, that's because of
exactly,
this. That's because of
exactly,
this.
exactly. But fortunately, my household's very supportive. My wife is very supportive.
I'm thinking back to like maybe when this all first started for you, like friends back home kind of thing. Is that a theme that you've heard?
Not really.
Not really. Okay,
Not
cool. We
not
love that for
really.
you.
Yeah, no, I haven't. I've been fortunate. I think the people that I've known for a while who are real friends are real friends.
Right.
Um, and then I also have no problem like shutting BS down. So, for example,
Yep.
I'm the guy that if you make a stupid comment on my social media, I will delete the comment. If you make
Yeah.
another one, I will block you. Like I don't have time for that energy. I just don't, and I'm not here for it. So I'm here for controversy. I'm here for challenging me. I'm here for, even having a moment because people are people and people have moments, but I'm not here
Yep.
to be for just the hate for hate's sake. You know,
Yeah.
I, I,
Yeah.
I even am okay with hate that is based out of jealousy or based out of not understanding. I'll give you grace. I'll try to explain. But if you double down on the hate, yeah, then
Yeah.
I'll pass. I'll pass. And that was one of our goals. Like my wife and I, we talked about it about 3 years ago that we need to bring out the haters. Like we like too many people actually like us. We don't have enough haters. That means that we're not doing
We're
things
doing something right.
we're
Yeah.
not doing something right. Look at everyone who's successful. They have a lot of haters. We don't have enough haters. That's why we're not being as successful as we
Yep.
can. And so now we're getting some haters, and I'm like, babe, this is exactly what we
This
wanted.
is a sign.
It's a sign.
Yeah.
Yes.
I love this conversation because I think that so many people shy away from those conversations and
Yep.
have a difficult time creating boundaries around it. And it sounds like you've created some great boundaries and you're committed to surrounding yourself with people who actually support you and where you're going. And you don't even hear the other noise because you don't let that in your environment. And that's just so important to be able to be strong enough to shut it down.
Yeah. Yeah. And I advise people to, I advise people to do it all the time. It's like pick an email list to unsubscribe from, pick somebody to drop from your social media network, pick somebody. You'll be surprised how your life just feels better because some people can just tweak your vibration in ways and your energy in ways that they don't deserve that access to you.
Ah,
They just don't.
yes.
They don't. And because we're
So
human,
good.
and I suffer from it as well, is no matter how strong I am, because I feed myself with so much positive information that I'm able to deal with a lot, right? But there's still that the goal has been from being impacted by a full day to being impacted by an hour to being impacted by a minute to not even having to be impacted, but you're always going to, even if it's a few seconds, that person doesn't deserve a few seconds of my time. So bye.
Mhm.
Like bye. If their intent is to bring me harm or upset me or hate, I'll pass. I'll pass.
Hard pass. I love that. One of the sessions that I sat in on during this week at the podcast Evolutions was actually a keynote by Sun Yi, who is a marketer and creator. Actually, he's based in LA. Kofi, I think you would actually really like him. We'll connect you
Awesome.
with him after this. He's just a really incredible person. He has an interesting story. And one of his slides I remember saying is, if nobody hates you, nobody loves you.
Exactly. I love that.
And I saw that, I was like, "Ooh,
Yes.
okay." And, sometimes, like you said, there's situations where you treat it like the zoo. You don't feed the animals, right? You just let it be. But if they're challenging you, if they have a contrarian opinion and you engage in constructive, helpful
Right.
debate, I love that opportunity. Yeah, and I absolutely
Yeah.
love it. I actually want to go back. You were talking about like sitting down with your wife and setting goals for wanting to, just realize your fullest potential individually together. You know, Candace, her and her husband Dom talk about this a lot. My partner Will and I as well, because we're great individually and better and going farther together. So I would just love to pick your brain because how long have you been married with your wife?
Wow, what is this? 2024. So it'll be, geez, 18 years.
We're not trying to get you in trouble on this one. If we need to cut this part out, we will. Is it 18?
It'll be 18 years this December. Yeah.
So I'm 4 years in, and I just would love to know, how do you guys approach goal setting, those conversations? How do you ensure that as you are growing in your career and her and hers, how do you ensure that you continue to grow together so you guys are on the same page, but still realizing your full mogul selves as well?
Yeah. Gosh, there's a few things about that. I'm going to give some unrelated to the specific question, marriage advice first, because I feel like you even have to make it through marriage to then be able to put your heads together to grow and build together, right? And for us, the early parts of marriage, my wife is crazy dynamic as well. Like I have a cool story in history, but my wife, we met because she played in the Women's World Cup in 2003. So, highest level of soccer player. She was doing her master's at Columbia in New York. She finished with a
Oh,
PhD.
casual
Exactly,
masters while
exactly.
Wait,
playing in
we need
the
her on the podcast
Yeah. Oh,
on
you do
this.
100%.
yeah. Can we next?
First
Yeah.
Ivy
Okay,
League
perfect.
woman to play in a Women's World Cup, period, for any country. She played for Ghana. So her dad's from Ghana, like my dad's from Ghana, and she grew up here in the US. PhD in public health. She was a college professor for 7 years. I mean, just crazy, crazy, crazy dynamic. But it also takes a strong personality to even have that level of success. And when you bring together strong people who are successful people and driven people, it's a lot of adjustment. So my marriage advice to couples in general is to ask yourself this question during or after any debate or argument. And the question is, am I going to leave this person over this? And the answer is almost always 99.999% no. Unless they've cheated on you, unless they've done something that is it's like almost irreversible. Usually it's just a personality difference or learning each other, or you decided to push their buttons that day, or they decided to push your buttons that day, or what have you. And the more you can abbreviate the time that you're going to be upset at your partner, the better you're going to be in the relationship. Because early on, it might have been a week and then a day. Like I said, these things, the human part, it just gets shorter. You don't stop experiencing certain things, but the time that it impacts you gets shorter. So that's the first part. Second part is now, okay, we figured that out. How do we come together for success? Well, we have board meetings with ourselves. Like we will block time to either do a dinner or do a lunch, or sometimes it's just like a Sunday evening where we say, okay, let's look at our lives. We do a lot of walk and talks. And I've told her jokingly, I'm like, these need to be podcasts because we talk about so much interesting stuff that it helps us stay aligned with what we're looking to do and what we're working and building towards. If she listens to a podcast and she thinks it's great, she'll text it to me, vice versa. If I order a book and I'm like, this is a good book, I'll order her a copy. So now we're also fueling ourselves with some of the same ammunition. These things help us stay on the same page. They help us understand each other better. And they help us through the challenges of striving towards success. When you know what you're working towards, it's easier to deal with some of the challenges, the delays, and the things that impact that journey. But that's what I would suggest. Block the time to actually talk about it. Make it a safe space
Yeah.
to talk about it. Be flexible. If your partner has a shift in where they want to go with life, hear them out. It might just be a moment and they just need to be heard, or it might be something real and you have to dive into it. But having those times where you're going to be talking about these things it's a game changer.
Oh, I love that, and I would also be an advocate and very much a loyal listener if you do in fact decide to launch a podcast like that, walk and talks where you can just kind of like, be a fly on the
Yeah,
wall. I love that. My partner's a chef, so I think our equivalent would be wine and
there you
dine
go.
because his love language is
There you
food
go.
and good wine. But that's great. Thank you for
Yeah,
that advice
yeah,
there.
for sure.
So, Kofi, one of the things that you mentioned was your Shopify store.
Yes.
And this is 5 years plus in the making. So tell us about it. Why are you excited about it?
Definitely, definitely. So, as you can probably tell, even just from my energy, I'm like, part business person, but part like life philosopher and motivator. I get excited about sharing information that I think will help other people unlock and unleash their potential. So, like, that's my secret weapon is that, if I talk to somebody long enough, I'm going to have some unsolicited advice for them on what they can do better, how they can do it better. And it's funny because my wife teases me and she said, "Did they ask your opinion on that?" I'm like, "Well, no, but I feel like I needed to share. I needed to tell them what they could do." And I think I do that because I've always wanted more unsolicited advice.
That's
I'm a
interesting.
I'm a high D personality. I'm an alpha personality. I'm you know 6'2". I'm in decent shape. People think I have my shit together, but I need a lot of freaking help. Like I need
We
people to
all
tell
do.
me. You know, I
Yes.
need people to just tell me, like, hey, if you did this way, it'd be better. Or I noticed this about you, but you might want to think about it this way or tweak this. Tell me. Like, if I say something on a podcast, tell me. If I'm on social media, tell me. Like, I am not sensitive. I welcome it. I love it. I appreciate it. So I think that's why I give a lot of unsolicited advice myself. Um, Now I forgot the question. What was your question? Oh, the Shopify store. So
Yes.
uh, I would wear I would get like a t-shirt made with one of my sayings, right? And I would wear that, or I'd wear it when I worked out, or wear it at a conference. Like, for example, I have a bracelet on now. Like, if people are watching the video, they can see focus and finish. Focus and finish has been my mantra for 14 years. It was a message to self, which is why I wear it in a way that I can read it, not for other people to read externally, but for me to read. I can look at it and read it to remind myself, as an entrepreneur, don't have shiny object syndrome. Focus on the small steps to lead to your big goals. Focus on this before announcing it. Focus on this before starting the next thing, blah, blah, blah. So I started wearing a t-shirt. I had a couple t-shirts made, and people would always ask me for them. Even with the full mogul thing, I had a sweatshirt made that said full mogul. People started asking me for it. So I was like, I just need to be able to sell these things. But I didn't have time to figure it out. And then we had a weekend where we didn't have any soccer games. So both of our kids play soccer. Now our daughter started high school track.
Well,
Yeah,
naturally, right? It runs in the
runs in the
family.
family, runs in the family. And she's my daughter's a beast too. She, as a freshman, set the 200-meter record for her school. Just have to throw that out there. But she's
Of course.
proud
Proud dad
dad,
moment.
playing club soccer and everything. And she blew me a kiss while running the race. So I mean, I my heart almost melted. Her
Oh
coach
my
was
gosh. Yes, that's everything.
uh, start trends with your kids. It keeps you connected to them. Like, before every sports match, we do what's called a punch kiss. So we do that, right? She did that in the final 40 meters of the race, and I didn't notice because I was filming it. And then I watched the film. It was like my phone was kicking off onion fumes. I was like, no, no,
Mhm.
no. But
Yep.
so I finally had a weekend though where we didn't have any soccer. I didn't have any open
Okay.
houses. I didn't have any showings. I didn't have any soccer. And I was like, I'm gonna figure this out this weekend. And I'm always perplexed how people have full weekends and don't crush it in life. I'm like, if I had every weekend and didn't have like
For
soccer,
real, I
right?
think about that
Right?
too. I'm like, "You have a full 48?" And,
What?
like, "What are you doing with it?"
So the first day I spent about 9 hours, and the next day I spent about 8 hours, and figured it out, and it would have been
Mhm.
faster, but I had to literally figure it out. I was Googling articles to figure it out. I was watching YouTube videos. Then I was like, okay, well, how do I find a print on demand? And then how do I incorporate the print on demand service into the Shopify account? But I figured it out. And then over the next few days, I could create the products and so forth. And I wanted to create not just my own sayings, but like sayings that come out of these kind of conversations and anything that's motivational. And I wanted motivational swag and motivational signs. And, I have an acronym for FAIL that's find all important lessons. And then I came up with another one last year, right?
Ooh, do you have swag for that
Oh,
yet?
yeah.
Because I would buy that
Oh, yeah.
t-shirt or hoodie because I live in hoodies when I'm working from home.
Done. Done. What's funny? Because
Love
I don't have the
that.
FAIL acronym on a hoodie, but I will next week now that we've had this conversation.
Please, customer number
Well,
1.
listen,
Here we
I
go.
told my wife that if somebody gives me an idea for a hoodie, they get the first hoodie free. So you got one. You're going to get the first fail
Oh.
hoodie. I will call you to find out your size and the color that you want. By next week, it'll be in the mail. All right.
Oh my
You give me
goodness.
ideas,
Thank
you get the
you.
first product. So I created all these products, that reflect these sayings, and it's called Modi Swag. So motivational swag, modiswag.com. And we're super excited about it. Like, I have full moguls, kind of like a little bit more skewed towards males, but we have Shillionaire, which is like the female version, right? Because there's
Ooh,
nothing like,
okay.
women entrepreneurs. And in my opinion, there's another level that gets unlocked when female entrepreneurs pursue things in those same ways, because they just have women, in my opinion, they have extra senses, they have extra abilities that we just don't have. And so the Shillionaire is like the female version of that. It's the highest and best pursuit of yourself across all aspects of yourself and those additional things that women have. So we have a Shillionaire line. And it's been fun to, see people get into it, buy the coffee mugs, the focus and finish, or the signs for their houses or offices, or even just the t-shirts for working out.
Oh, Shillionaire, fail, so many goodness.
I love it. I love it. We're definitely going to drop the link to the Shopify inside the show notes. So grab your swag there. Grab
Please.
your Modi swag. Congratulations on getting that off the ground. I know that it's a big endeavor and you did it. And so it's out there. I'm so excited for you.
Thanks.
Is there anything that we haven't talked about yet, Kofi, that you want to talk about before we move on to our last segment?
Okay, so I would say two things. One, I'm super excited because I have my team, Global Real Estate and Development. We partnered with Real, but I'm helping them launch Real's luxury division, which is going to launch this year. So I'm super excited about that because there's so many agents around the country who are doing luxury business, but now in this ecosystem of collaboration, we'll be able to really connect, bring more value to each other, bring more value to our clients. So Real's luxury division is something I'm super excited about. And then also the coaching programs that I'm launching. I launched earlier this year a co-list coaching program to help agents with their first or next big luxury listing anywhere in the country. It's a way to mentor you through it, help you with the conversations with your clients, help you land the listing, market the listing, sell the listing, and build your luxury brand in your market. So pumped about that. And we're getting ready to launch an 8-week coaching program with just 12 agents. So we're going to have 12 at a time, kind of like a cohort. When I did my MBA, at Pepperdine, we had a cohort, and it was kind of nice getting to know the other people in your cohort and learning together. So getting ready to launch that, but just excited about those things.
See how he casually dropped MBA at Pepperdine like it's no big deal? Okay. Yeah. Casual. I like it. All right. Well, we're super excited for you. Congratulations on all your success. That coaching program sounds like exactly what is needed in this space where people get someone who's been there before and done it before and a small community of people who are going to support each other along the way. I feel like that is what is missing in the space, honestly. There's a lot of programs out there, but like to actually be in a cohort and be there for each other, that's amazing.
Definitely.
All right, so this is what we call our rapid fire section. And in the rapid fire section, I just ask you a few questions and just, there's no right answer, just top of your head and we move on. Okay. Childhood nickname.
Oh gosh, do I have to be truthful here?
Yeah, we said at the beginning we're going to be truthful here.
Okay. When I was in like middle school, I started like freestyling and rapping, and my friends called me Kid Nifty because my initials were KN. So Kid Nifty was like
Kid Nifty. Oh my gosh. If I bring that back, am I in trouble?
Yes, I kind of like
it.
100%. 100%. That was one of my childhood nicknames.
Well, when you said middle school, it brought me back to middle school. And in 7th grade, this is not fun for me, but people called me Mufasa because I had curly hair and I didn't know how to manage it. And it wasn't right. Okay. It was very wrong, but Mufasa was it. So now you know. I've never said that before.
Love it.
Okay. Next one. What is your go-to lazy dinner?
Go-to lazy? I mean, Uber Eats. I mean, I don't know.
Uber Eats, but what is the order? What is
the order? Probably what we like the most is like Chinese food, like some good Chinese food. I love good Chinese food. So yeah, that would be my go-to lazy dinner. If it's just me, like kids are fed, wife's fed, I'll do a protein shake and be done. I can get away with that.
I knew he was going to say that.
That's it.
Yeah. Okay. I don't know if you're going to have a take on this. Okay. Takis or hot Cheetos?
Takis for sure.
Me too. Yes, that's the right answer. Okay. How about your best non-curse word? One word insult. Can't be a curse word, but it's got to be insulting.
That's a good one. Curse word, non-curse word.
Can't be a curse word.
Insult.
We've heard like basic.
Yeah, that's a good one. Referring to somebody as simple. That's kind of that is one that we use quite a bit. I don't know if we have I say we because we do talk about these things at home. If we have a go-to, but we do have this saying that we won't insult you, we'll just shame you with your own reality, right? And that's what.
Yeah.
Maybe that would be my answer.
Okay. What makes you nervous?
I would say public speaking, but it's a false nervousness, right?
Mm-hmm.
I
Yep.
love speaking in public. I don't get nervous any of the days leading up to it, but literally the 3 minutes or 2 minutes right before I go on stage, my heart is
Yep.
beating through my chest. And then 2 minutes after I start, calm again. Right?
Yep.
That's kind of it. Not too many other things make me nervous because the things that do, I just attack them quickly, right? Where
Yep.
I tell my agents, and when I coach agents, I tell them to deliver bad news quickly, but with a solution. Because if you sit on bad news, it's weighing on you more than anything else. Also, you don't want your
Mm-hmm.
clients to hear it from somebody else. But even for that, things that are a challenge, just attack it quickly so it doesn't mount this doubt inside of you and this nervousness inside of you. You let that build up and it will.
Yep. What was the last thing you bought online?
Modi swag, of course.
Obviously, that's the only right answer.
That's the only
Yep.
right answer.
So I like to get to the airport about 2 minutes before I board. That's my thing. Kat is a 2 hour before boarding time kind of girl. Where are you on that?
2 hours for sure. I don't like
2
being late.
hours?
And my wife is 2 minutes. So I'd have to drag her along.
That's a tough one. That's me and Dom. Yeah.
I show up to client appointments and just park down the street and I just like to be relaxed. Like I don't like that
Yeah.
sense of rushing and rushing and rushing. So no, I get to the airport early. I have no problem. Plus, I mean, like you guys, we're just super busy and there's always something I can do with that time. So it's
Yep.
not wasted time, you know?
Right. Yep. So Kat is obsessed with Marvel and she has her own idea of what her superpower would be. But what would your superpower be if you were a superhero?
That's a good question as well. I think flying has always been something I wanted to be able to do, but also I've always wanted to be able to speak every language. Like as a superpower.
Ooh.
I've always thought that would be cool where I could go anywhere in the world and talk to anybody in the world. Like that would be amazing.
Yeah.
That'd be amazing to me.
That's awesome.
I love that. Yeah, actually, I think when we had Giselle Uguardi on the podcast, she said the same thing. The ability to,
Yeah.
speak languages. I mean, communication is everything, right? So I love that answer.
It's everything. It's everything.
So tell people, Kofi, where can everyone find you?
So my personal website is just my first and last name.com. So kofinartey.com. On Instagram is probably my favorite social. It's at Kofi_celebrity, but it's celebrity with an S, SELLEBRITY. Because I wrote a book called Celebrity, How to Build a Successful Sports and Entertainment-Based Business. So you can find me there. And then my company website is globalred.com, GLOBLRED.com, no A. So those are probably the easiest ways to find me. Social, DM me, I will hit you back.
That's awesome. We're going to drop all those links for you right in the show notes, so check it out there. And if you haven't already, leave a 5-star review. Thank you so much, Kofi, for your time.
You guys are awesome. It's a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you. Likewise.
Thanks for joining us on Not Nice, Clever.
Remember to follow our podcast wherever you listen to audio.
And if you found today's episode valuable, please share it with your friends.
No gatekeeping here. Remember, we love to see our clever crew grow.
Signing off, you're not so nice, but oh so clever besties that mean business.
See you soon.